To Michigan, where Representative McClain is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just have to make one comment, Mr. Sykes. Therein lies the problem. Your ability to tolerate this behavior is completely unacceptable. And sometimes you do need to use the stick because disincentives work. So with that, I was just appalled by that answer. But at any rate, Mr. Banks, I appreciate your passion. I love it. It is so refreshing to see. I'm going to ask a couple questions. I think they're really simple. But then I want to move to outcomes and what we can do to actually make change, because I think you said something very insightful. We need to get to the root of the problem and change the curriculum and change how we teach, right? So I'm assuming you're going to agree with me, but let me just, death to Israel, is that anti-Semitic?
Of course it is.
Of course. Kill the Jews, anti-Semitic?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Drawing swastikas or mimicking, is that anti-Semitic?
Absolutely.
I mean,
hate crime in New York, yes.
Of course. All of these activities are anti-Semitic. Vandalism of school property, right? Rioting, we agree on that, right? And we talk about taking action, right? And action is a vague term. So let's move from actions to outcomes, because sometimes when we take action, we don't get the desired outcome we appreciate or we want,
Sure.
right? So let's take a look at what actions you have taken and what has been the result of reducing the anti-Semitism in your schools.
Let me give you an example. An example of what was raised was Hillcrest High School, very passionately brought up. My alma mater that I went to, where a Jewish teacher was targeted in a frightening episode. We didn't accept that. We pushed back on that tremendously.
So can you give me an example of pushback? Because to me, pushback is that those people are dealt with swiftly, but what's your definition of pushback?
But in terms of outcomes, what I meant was we suspended students, we removed the principal of the school, we engaged the Simon Wiesenthal Center for a deeper dive in education of those kids. The teacher who was targeted made a decision, I think one of the most heroic things I've ever heard, to actually come back. She could have gone to another school. She made a decision to say, if I'm going to change this.
You fired the people. You fired
we move people, absolutely. And the outcome is that what's happening at that school now has transformed in significant ways. We're not fully arrived. This is a work in progress.
I get it. What have you done to change your curriculum?
Yeah, so we have engaged in a wide range of new resource guides, teaching about anti-Semitism, teaching about
and what are those resource guides?
Excuse me?
What are those resource guides?
We're working together with the Museum of Jewish History in New York City, who's helping us to create an educated guide for teachers.
I would offer one solution as well, because a lot of times we come up here and we just talk about problems. One solution is Morris Life does a really good job of teaching anti-Semitism and really ruling out hate around the Holocaust and whatnot. I think where everyone gets frustrated is we use these words like pushback, and I think we have to have a real clear definition of, if X happens, if you vandalize school property, if you perform anti-Semitic acts, that here is a clear policy that will be dealt with swiftly and justly. Am I hearing you say today that those policies are in place?
Those policies are in place. Here's the challenge.
Okay.
These things don't always come down to so clear yes and no. I'll give you an example. We had a school where a teacher hung up a map of the Middle East that eliminated Israel from the map. So the question is that anti-Semitic? To me, that's anti-Semitic. And we had it removed. But others have said, did you fire her? She said, essentially, I made a mistake. I didn't intend it to be anti-Semitic, and she had a reason for it.
I have just a moment. How do your administrators respond to students that ignore authority, right? I think we have three perpetrators here. We have the students, we have the teachers, and we have the administrators, right?
Right.
And I think all three of those people need to be dealt with and need to be dealt with swiftly and justly. So with that, I apologize, I'm out of time, but I would like to see your written response to how you deal with anti-Semitism as it pertains to those three entities, students, administrators, and teachers. And
Sure.
with that, thank you,
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you very much.